Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to WASA Distance Education and ENG4C. Well, yesterday we started in on a new unit, that's unit number 2, and the first activity in that unit is called Scary Movie. And we worked through the content of the activity and left you with assignment number or key question number 9. Today we're going to continue on and have a look at key question number 10, continuing on in the scary movie activity 1. So as far as the success criteria, well, we should be able to provide examples of archetypes from horror movies with the material we covered yesterday, the websites that I highlighted. Once again, I can send you those links if you wanted a better look at them. Um, Also, you were able to identify archetypes and cite examples of in horror movies that you have viewed. Today, the success criteria will be for you to illustrate a comic strip that illustrates at least 3 of the archetypes we discussed yesterday. You can you will also be able to use conventions of a comic strip to communicate a beginning, middle, and end, like all good stories, at least 3 horror movie archetypes, and dialogue speech balloons. And there's a few other elements of comic strips that we'll touch on for you as well. So you can include those in your answer to that key question. Now, I just remembered I wanted to review the hero archetype with you. And I have to go here, get rid of that. And, okay, so back over to Unit 2. Sign back in, of course. All right. Now, where did you go? Is that it here? No, those are the ones we looked at yesterday. Mm-hmm. Oh, here it is right here. The Hero's Journal Hero's Journey PDF. Okay, so this gives a little more background about Joseph Campbell and how he came up with this um, actual pattern that we find in many stories nowadays and historically. Um, Joseph Campbell, an American, oh, I guess I can include the size of this so you can see it better. Joseph Campbell, an American mythological researcher, wrote a famous book entitled The Hero with a Thousand Faces. In his lifelong research, Campbell discovered many common patterns running through hero myths and stories around the world. Years of research led Campbell to discover several basic stages that almost every hero quest goes through, no matter what culture the myth is part of. He calls this common structure the monomyth. George Lucas, the creator of Star Wars, claims that Campbell's monomyth was the inspiration for his groundbreaking films. Lucas also believes that Star Wars is such a popular saga because it taps into a timeless story structure that has existed for 1,000 years. Many followers of Campbell have defined the stages of this monomyth in various ways, sometimes implying different names for certain stages. For this reason, there are different versions of the hero's journey but they retain the same basic elements. Okay, so we did mention one set of patterns. This I'm going through another slightly different set of patterns. Of course, we had the ordinary world uh, when we discussed the Matrix, for instance, yesterday. Heroes exist in a world that is considered ordinary or uneventful by those who live there. Then there's the call for adventure, which is right across all of these hero myths. Um, the refusal of the quest. This sets up the conflict of the story, or part of at least one of the conflicts, right, where the actual hero refuses to accept that there's anything wrong. Some, so it becomes part of the story, entering the unknown. As they embark on their journey, the heroes enter a world that they had never experienced before, often filled with supernatural creatures, breathtaking sights, and constant threat of death. And then there's some kind of supernatural aid, something above the laws of nature. And there's often uh, allies and helpers, uh, tests, and the supreme ordeal. So as we go up the ascending ladder to the reach the crisis where the supreme ordeal is, we have to deal with all these tests. Reward and the journey home. Okay. So there's a number of archetypes that also appear in the hero's journey. Of course, there's the heroes, central figures in the story, right? There's also shadows, which could be villains, enemies, or perhaps the enemy within. This could be repressed possibilities of the hero, his or her own potential for evil, just like Frodo in Lord of the Rings. And there's mentors, guides, hero's guide or guiding principles. A herald, the one who brings the call to adventure, and then threshold guardians, the forces that stand in the way at important turning points. We also have shapeshifters, tricksters, allies, and women as a temptress. Sometimes a female character offers danger to the hero. They call that a femme fatale. Fatale. Shapeshifters are creatures like vampires and werewolves. Tricksters are clowns or mischief makers. They are all present in most of these stories, these myths. Okay, just that's just as a review for you. Now we will move on here and have a look at the next key question. Key question 10 is found on page 8. The Scary Movie Comic. Please keep a copy of this assignment in your portfolio folder. You will refer to it in your culminating task. After having a discussion with your peers and gathering more ideas about archetypes and in horror movies, you're going to create a comic strip to illustrate at least three of the horror movie archetypes. Comic strips are actually a lot more similar to movies than you might think. Each panel of the comic is like pausing a moment in a movie. Here's some terminology that is helpful to know when you are reading or creating a comic book. These panel, and we're on the bottom of page 8 here, a distinct segment of the comic containing a combination of image and text in endless variety. All right, I'm just going to scroll quickly to this page here, right? So this is a panel right here, right there, each cell. Um, a frame are the lines and borders that contain the panels, right? So right here, the lines and the borders. This is the border is all in white here. You can see the lines that are drawn to segment all of the different parts of the panel. The gutter is a space between, exclusively between the framed panels. So in that case, it is this white line here. Captions, they are boxes containing a variety of text elements, including scene splitting and description. Speech balloons, these enclose dialogue and come from a specific speaker's mouth. They, they vary in size, shape, and layout and can alternate to depict the conversation. Types of speech balloons include those holding external dialogue, which is speech between characters, internal dialogue, which is thought enclosed by a balloon that has a series of dots or bubbles going up to it. And then we also have special effects lettering. This is a method of drawing attention to text. It often highlights onomatopoeia, such as words such as bang or pow. Okay, so just as we are referring to those parts, let's see now, I just wanted to show you some examples here. Okay, so I have up a website here called How to Draw Comics Academy. Now I can send this link to you. You might find it helpful. It goes through many different aspects of drawing comics, include writing and script writing, and very helpful kind of planning that you can do. Now, look here. This is an example of a comic, right? And the caption that we were describing, this is the caption right here, right? So it's telling us, introducing the scene to us. By now, Barbara's gotten her test back. Okay, and then we can see these speech balloons, right? And you can see who's actually speaking here. And we generally go from left to right. Let's see if I can find any thought balloons in this particular. Nope, can't see any examples of thought balloons here. We'll point those out in later, okay? Um, so, um, Important assessment information in your comic should contain the following: a clear beginning, middle, and end. I'm back on page 9 again of Unit 2. At least 3 horror movie archetypes, characters, settings, and or plot, speech balloons, and a brief paragraph explaining the archetypes you have chosen to illustrate. Notice that this is highlighted here, bolded print, so that you don't forget to include this paragraph explaining the archetypes that you use. Be sure to check out the exemplar, the example provided on the next page. For this assignment, you can draw the cartoon by hand or may need to use an online program such as canva.com. It has templates that may be useful. Ask your teacher for more information on other options. But the nice thing about Canva is that we, as WASA staff and students, have access a free account to that. So all you have to use is your Gmail email address, which if you don't have, we can easily get to you. And you can access canva.com. And I'll show you that in a bit, what that has available um, if you want to use it. Okay, so there's our exemplar right here. And that's on page 10, right? And then the explanation following that, the paragraph that you really need to be able to point out the different archetypes that you are using in your comic. All right, so you can draw this if you feel so inclined. Some people are quite comfortable with doing the art, and then other people kind of panic a bit. You know, I'm not going to grade you too hardly on not being able to draw cartoon characters. The important thing is to attempt whatever your level is and make sure that everything's included that's asked for as far as the archetypes and also the elements of a comic strip with the gutters and cells and frames and speech balloons. And let's see, let's take a look at our example here. Okay, so these two people are talking. I'm not sure we should be out here at night with an axe murder on the loose. Okay, so they're setting up the scene, right? They're out at night and there's an axe murder on the loose. It looks pretty secluded there. Don't be silly, the blonde-haired one says. Well, they're always the the blonde-haired ones are the ones who seem to get everyone in trouble. Um, that's a stereotype, right? Um, or an archetype. Archetypes are, in a way, similar to stereotypes. Aren't you even curious about this old abandoned cabin in the woods? Right. Well, there's uh, an archetype right there, the old abandoned cabin, and of course this girl is not curious at all about it. Okay, so right away we have several archetypes, right? That blonde-haired girl, she's naive, and she's bound to get her and her friend in trouble. And then the spooky, abandoned old cabin. Come on, chicken, this is a terrible idea. Oh, there's a thought balloon right there. Right, her friend saying, come on, chicken, we're going to go inside. But then you can see she's thinking this is a terrible idea. This is a thought balloon, right? Um, with these little dots. And their caption there, the sound, creak. Look how it's all pointy and jagged, right? So you can almost feel the sensation of the sound. I don't like it, the younger friend says. Where is that noise coming from? And the naive blonde-haired one says, this is so cool. And she goes running up the stairs. Let's go find out. Cheryl, no. Eek. And that's the end, right? So, the story doesn't even come to a complete ending, but this is the beginning, middle, and this is kind of an end a short story ending that leaves you hanging on the edge. You don't really know what's happening. You fill it in yourself. But that's fine for an ending for such a short comic strip. Now, this was created for bit strips, with bit strips for schools, and that particular software isn't available anymore. And okay, let's look at the explanation. In this comic, the haunted house represents an archetypal setting, the haunted house. It's the unfamiliar world that presents all kinds of challenges for the hero. The hero is represented by the girl in the pink shirt, right? At first, she doesn't want to go into the haunted house, but her friend doesn't seem to see the danger. The hero's friend seems to be a common character type in horror movie genre. She is a bit reckless and doesn't seem to use common sense. These characters always seem to go into the attic or basement in the haunted house. And the artist student says, I've chosen to illustrate a portion of the hero's journey for my third archetype, crossing the threshold. Okay, so she's included part of the hero's journey archetype, one of the sections, the steps in the journey of the hero. And we just reviewed that journey today, but it's also available in the first part of the activity of this unit that we covered. Let's see, I'll scroll back to show it to you here, right here, right? Beginning on page 6 and then on to page 7. So that's the parts of the journey of the hero archetype. So, crossing the threshold, the hero was reluctant to enter the haunted house at first, but now she has to enter the house to save her friend. Okay, so hopefully you can see how that fits into the hero's journey, crossing the threshold, the reluctance of the hero or the person playing the hero to do that at first, but then being drawn in this case, she's drawn in to go and save her friend. Okay, I'll come back to the rubric later. few things I wanted to show you though on the internet. Okay, so there's a good website called wikihow.com that basically shows you how to do lots of different things. But what we can use it for is how to draw comic book action. And so it lays out different methods and the steps in those methods, right? So in the first step, uh, think about your page layout. That's that grid with all the gutters and the cells that you draw in. You can do that with a pen and pencil. You can also use that grid to moderate the pace. That means you can have like small little cells, or you can have long cells. Generally, people read from left to right and then back down to the next um, row and read across like that again, as illustrated in this diagram, creating a line of action. And it goes on about being um, how to include story elements like drama into into your comic strip, right? So we have different types of uh, sizes here, different types of scenes. In film, they would call them shots. Like this is called a medium shot, and this would be a close-up. But you can see how the close-up can really create more drama. You can show the expression on your character's face. Using speed lines. There's a good example right there. Okay, so that is how to prepare your comic strip and some ideas on how you can add elements in the drawing to accentuate your character's movements. Let's see if we can see some examples here. I'm going to look for um, X-Men. Okay, we want to look at images here. Okay, well this is some examples, but I wanted to find an actual comic page, comic strip. Okay, here's one right here. There, we'll use this one. Okay, where'd you go? Oh, there we go. Okay, all right. So you can see there's lots going on here, and notice that the top four cells here, or frames, are all equal, and then there's a longer one at the bottom. There's a lot more action going on in the bottom one. Can you see that? Here, hold on. We'll start at the first one in the upper left here. There's lots of speech bubbles here, right? And you can see that these are pointed to the different individuals, and these are some kind of magical spell or something like that. You can see she is doing that. You can see the movement of her hands. She's pushing her hands forward. That is creating some kind of spell, right? She's getting these sounds, poppity pop pop pow, right? So those are the sounds that are happening when she is throwing that spell at these policemen over here. And you can see all the fireworks that are created and the sparks and all the energy created by her throwing that spell. Right? You can hear all these guys screaming, wow, watch it, duck. How she do that? Right? And she's just saying, well, you guys are going to get it right here, the grand finale. And then a whole bunch of other people around. All part of the action. We can see some policemen here, more speech balloons. And this is where all the action takes place in this really long frame and cell. In film, they would call it a cell, but it's a frame in comics. But you can see lots of action going on here, right? And that's probably why they made it twice as long as the other more stationary cells or events in the storyline, right? She's all obviously jumping here. You can see her trail as she's landing these flashes of light and one big jump out of the frame and back into the frame. You can see these lines here signifying movement. These two police officers run into each other while they're trying to catch her. Whoomp. Right? And you can see the energy that's created from their impact. Right? Uh, let's see what else we got here. So I would recommend just taking a look at uh, examples of comics. And there's tons of them on the internet. Right? So I looked at the X-Men, but example, comic strips. Okay, so there's lots of different ones here that you can look at to get ideas from. Here's a Garfield. Right? Garfield, a lot of times for the first couple of cells, there's not even any kind of speech bubble at all. Okay, so there is, what is Garfield's human friend's name? I can't remember his name, but he's speaking here. I'm so cool, my shades are wearing shades. And Garfield is thinking, oh, please. And you can see the speech bubbles. Okay? What else we got here? Dennis the Menace, Garfield. Lots of different styles and characters to have a look at. Maybe you can use some of these drawings as examples. Like here's a pretty simplified, basic one right here with a man and girl, right? Just a simple line drawing. Let's see what else. How about these ones, right? Just a head with a stickman body, right? If you're really intimidated by actual drawing, something like this would do just fine. Okay, so give that a try. But with like anything else, it's important to research how you're going to do something. So I would guess probably lots of you haven't drawn cartoons before. And if you do your research, you will start to find it less intimidating. Now, finally, let's see. What am I looking for? Oh, yes. We're going to oh, right here, Canva. Right? So Canva, as I said, is available to all WASA students. Actually, I think all NNEC students have access to it. And I have opened up the templates section here, canva.com, and then you would add your Ontario Schools, that's your Gmail address, email address, and then you would just search for templates, right? Over here in the menu on the left, templates, let's find cartoons. Oh, I should say cartoon strips. All right. So there are literally 20,000 templates. All right. Look at this here. You have many of them are already started to be filled in. And you can edit them in any way that you choose. Like you can select a template and then customize the template, and then it opens it up. Right? You can add text here. You can even change the cells. Right? By moving them like that. Or you can drag them and make them smaller. Like that. You can add text. You can add characters. Let's see. Bum, bum, bum. Oops. Go back to templates. Okay. Okay, we don't want to create an animation, but where is the library? That's what I'm looking for. Okay, so here's one that we could use. How about this vampire here? Let's drag him over here. All right. There, we can put him in there like that. What else we got? There's a tombstone we can put in over here. Oh, there we go. Drag that over here like this. And we can remove the watermarks. And if we want to find a haunted house, for instance, there we go. Oh, there's a cool haunted house right there. I'm going to get rid of that, so I just select it and delete it. Put the haunted house up here, like that. And let's see if I have here. Let's find a hero. Oh, superhero or heroes. Oh, let's use a Ninja Turtle here. There we go. Right? And you can have the speech balloon, him talking. You can add text. Oh, like that. I want to move that. There we go. Move that. There we go. There. So we got our little Ninja Turtle saying hiya, hiya. And we can move this guy over here and we can add text to him like that. So up here you just search for, oh, say we want trees, whatever elements you want it to add to your story. Okay. There's trees in the background, like that. Well, we want him to be, yeah. So you have a little bit of fun with this, right? But the important thing is to plan out your story ahead of time, right? So what archetypes are you going to use? So it's best to list all of these. Are you going to include an aspect of the hero's journey? The confrontation between the protagonist and the antagonist? Maybe that's the climax of the story. Are you, as far as archetypes, mood, setting, plot line, um, uh, the buildings, the isolation of being in a forest. Went through a lot of different examples of archetypes. You can refer back to yesterday's class or your notes, the unit notes. Okay, so as long as you include 3 archetypes in your story, you have a beginning, middle, and an end. Now, I don't have a beginning, middle, or an end, um, but you have to, in the beginning, introduce the scene maybe the mood of what's happening, right? And then some kind of resolution, some kind of climax or crisis, exactly what you would do in a short story. So, once you get this done, you can send it in to me. If it if it's lacking or missing some of the important elements, I will make comments for you, and it'll give you the opportunity to edit if you need it. Um, and yeah, so have some fun with this one. You can see Canva can be lots of fun playing around with, but do some planning beforehand before you actually do the comic strip. Think of the characters that you want to have. Make it simple. Don't make it too complicated. You can have a protagonist and antagonist, maybe, or just two sidekicks, like our example. And think of a cute little, short little story with a beginning, middle, and an end. Try to include all of the elements of comic strips in your um, assignment, and then that will be it. Anyway, so that's it for today's class. If you want any of the links that I have shown you today, just contact me. I can send those off to you as soon as possible. We finished up with activity number 1 from unit number 2. Here's the how you are going to be assessed. For creativity, the story contains many creative details and or descriptions that contribute to the reader's comprehension and enjoyment of the story and project. Dialogue text, there's appropriate amount of dialogue and or text to bring characters to life, and it's always clear which character is speaking. The original illustrations are in panels with frames, gutters, captions, special effects, lettering, and speech balloons. Grammar and usage were correct and contributed to clarity, style, and character development. And then 3 archetypes are accurate and there are no factual errors. Okay, so that is the rubric for this assignment. If you have any questions, please contact me about this all. Otherwise, have some fun tomorrow.